Okay, we'll give Keith. Ah, here he is. Just got online. Okay. Just offered him a teleport just in case. And there's the rock star. Hi, Keith. Yeah, go ahead and sit down. Perfect. Okay. So, our format is going to be a bit casual. Okay, this presentation explores the components included in building a career pathway from K-12 through community colleges to the university level. And we're using much needed cybersecurity pathway development being done in California as an example of the many elements involved and the sheer complexity of such projects. So this is a California Cybersecurity Education Pipeline Project, C3E3. And it's designed to balance the need for academic and professional experience in cybersecurity. Getting used to this speakeasy thing. And the whole thing has pretty much been spearheaded by Dr. Keith Clement next to me here. He's the chair of the Cybersecurity Taskforce Workforce Development Education Subcommittee, and he's a professor of criminology at the State University of Fresno.
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
Uh, Great to be here.
Yeah. So why virtual worlds? Well, virtual worlds are the global campus. You know, people say a lot of things about the metaverse, but when you come down to it, it's virtual worlds. Okay. We need a model for developing accredited career pathways with, you know, and better articulation with traditional educational systems. It's one thing that's lacking in virtual education. The lack of cybersecurity professionals is a global problem. So our objectives, and then I'll read this and then get Keith getting it on board. Okay. So the objectives, we need to build this consortium of K through 12, California community colleges, the CSUs, and the UCs with industry sector partners, workforce economic development agencies, and government agencies. Need linked learning, seamless transitioning into statewide IT cybersecurity branches. Oh, that's kind of confusing. I'm sorry. I overshot myself. It's easy to do trying to coordinate the signs and the conversation. So anyway, let's jump into need.
Hello, everyone. I hope all is well. As Darkeagle and Myron kindly introduced me, it has been a pleasure to work with folks like Darkeagle and numerous others in California and nationally even since 2013, when, get this, we had a cybersecurity workforce problem, and and it's gotten so much better that we're, I think, worse off, frankly, now than we were 10 years ago, and we were pretty bad off then. So it hasn't, not much room for optimism in that respect. So
Um,
for those that are in the know, there's about 600,000 U.S. cyber positions available, not IT, but cybersecurity positions. And worldwide, I think that Burning Glass said about 3 million currently available now, and a couple 100,000 needed imminently on top of the deficit we have. And if you're following the California cybersecurity capability gap, I think that we're down about 65,000 professionals in the area. So, the need is very clear, Darkeagle. That's for sure.
oh yeah, and it's so critical that the actual traditional education systems may not be able to catch up. So dependency on the metaverse is going to increase over time.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the first things, yeah, I love disputes and controversies and starting out going there. We could always open up the industry recognized certifications versus 4-year degrees in computer science or other STEM fields. And the question is a 4-year degree necessary for success in the field of cyber and IT as well? About 1/8 of cyber jobs are found in the IT space.
Exactly, and anymore the industries are almost depending on their current staff to try to provide these services, and basically asking them to do that is almost impossible. We definitely need separate individuals to provide cybersecurity as well as the IT staff that they already have.
Well, for example, one of the key components about IT and cyber is it crosses all industries, all sectors, all walks of life, internationally, etc. And not everybody has access, for example, or a math background to get into a 4-year degree, a science background for that matter. And so what we need to do, Darkeagle, is we need to have a track that works for degreed individuals, 2-year, 4-year, and 6-year degrees. And if you only follow the stats, now I'm just don't shoot me as the messenger. About 90% of cybersecurity jobs, entry level included, have a minimum requirement of a 4-year degree in a related field. And so not everybody is positioned for whatever reason for success in a 4-year degree. I'll be honest with you, Darkeagle. I don't have the math. I probably had the science background. I wouldn't have the math to be successful in a STEM program. I would never be able to pass calculus beyond my wildest imagination. So why should people like me get locked out of a career in cybersecurity because I can't do differential or hierarchical equations, right? I mean, it's not like
Yeah,
that's an
exactly.
essential part of your job. I mean, what the heck? You're a technician in a security operations center, for heaven's sakes. You're not a math theoretician. So that
Yeah.
non-degreed approach is critical.
Right. Besides that, there aren't that many degree programs worldwide. We could probably count the total number on one hand. So this is a unique and critical program that you've spearheaded.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think, Darkeagle, one of the directions that we've twisted into is the idea of having 3 tracks of
Yeah.
workforce development with the 2-year degree program, and then like apprenticeships or workforce development models, a variety of workforce development models that are in play there, and a 2-year degree track, a 4-year degree track. And again, there are some people that want to be really far up the talent model. And then the third is a non-degree track, which is a combination of industry recognized certs. I think that CompTIA Security Plus would be what we'd call the ground
Right.
floor of that. maybe a CCNA if you were going to make the jump into the network security eventually. And then, of course, the utilization of cyber academies and cyber boot camps. And I'm a university professor, and the second I say that, all the people in the university are looking at me with a weird look on their face, like, exactly, what's this guy talking about? A career track in cyber that does not involve college or universities to speak of, other
Right.
than maybe cyber academies and boot camps may be hosted at their institutions.
Right. And there is a strong degree of if it's not built here, invented here, it's not good enough. And that attitude permeates all levels of traditional education. And that's something that's going to be a major obstacle for us to overcome. I truly believe that virtual worlds will uh, probably do the most in terms of overcoming that. But beyond that, these kinds of programs that we're developing, become a template that other kinds of systems can be built on, which is also really important for virtual worlds.
Because of the steep learning curve that goes with IT and cybersecurity, we need to start kids as early as possible. And I mean K to 12. And I'm not talking about turning kindergartners into cyber warriors or anything. I'm talking about giving them the academic preparation they need so they can be successful in the middle schools and the high schools, yet get them into cyber hygiene and awareness and so-called best practices, right? I mean, we need to keep our kids safe as they learn online, back to the metaverse, and how to be good citizens here.
Right.
And so what is going to happen, this dovetails nicely with the shortage, as we all know of, for computer science and STEM teachers in K to 12, is that through the automation of a good deal of the education programs that we're talking about in K to 12, we can actually reduce the amount of teachers that we need in the so-called classroom, because we are kind of centralizing a good deal of these activities. So with relatively few instructional staff and technology, bots or other, through technology, we could really reach out and enhance the educational experience of youngsters in the K to 12 education side.
Oh, yeah. And then when we get to high school, the basic cyber hygiene aspects of cybersecurity have pretty much been covered, and we can start actually training them, in this phase one, where we're building these pathways at the high school level.
Well, again, I was this is useful from K to 12. And then, of course, Darkeagle, once we've brought the kids through academic support and basis and IT and cyber, we actually do this called the C3 EP3 micro badge, micro credential engine, where basically any subject under the sun that meets the guidelines of what our interoperable digital badge system looks like can be included. So we could easily be talking about oceanography, ballroom dance, hiking, advising, anything that you can develop. And so that's what takes the students from K to 12. And then, Darkeagle, can we talk about the transition from K to 12 into the 2-year and career tracks?
Yeah. We have the certificate programs, and those are important steps and help us with the multiple entry and exit points on this program. But we do need to get to the more advanced components. See, is this the right slide? Yeah, digital forensics
There's
skills.
slides?
Yeah,
I apologize, I don't see them. I'm
they're
busy
kind of
looking at that great crowd.
yeah, they're actually kind of behind us to your right.
I see. I my apologies to the participants. I could blather on all day about stuff. I will
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm keeping the script going, and like I told everybody, this is going to be a rather conversational.
the other
Oh,
left.
the other left. Oops. Okay.
This, what I would like to mention is I see it up there. the value, if you will, of a quick transition from 12th grade graduating high schools into either the career pathway, which in all fairness, there's not a lot of folks that go from high school straight into chief information security officer. So,
Right.
the transition is fairly limited on the career side, mostly because, of course, I don't know of a government agency or a private employer that's going to put an 18-year-old with not much experience anywhere near their stacks or their core business model, shall we say. But and in fact, the only area actually, Myron, that I've heard of success in here for youngsters seems to be in the entrepreneurial area. So I do
Right.
know at least one gal at the age of 14 who is running her own multi-million-dollar cybersecurity consulting firm. So, I mean, it does happen, obviously,
Right.
very, very rarely. What we do need to prepare folks for is to get into the 2-year schools.
Yeah. And that's where the real cybersecurity job preparation really begins. Once you get to the community college level, start earning associate's degrees and packing on these stackable certificates, then industry starts getting interested in you and wanting to hire you.
It's so fascinating that you say that. I would put it to the esteemed body here that companies and government agencies are getting significantly desperate, that they're almost just looking for folks with a good fit, right? Not education, not experience, but are you going to fit into the culture of the company, or, are you,
Right.
they're looking for soft or essential skills many times than the hard technical skills, because what's really going on right now in technology is it's kind of a bifurcated employment system. That is, that if you have new upcoming skills, you are very marketable and very much in demand. And if you have skills that are less marketable and current, there's a very high unemployment rate. I mean, who knew that programming in COBOL or assembler would have been, critical in 2022 with all the macro and the Z machines that we have, whereas 15 years ago they were almost dead languages.
Oh, I know. And it's funny how many corporations are desperately seeking people who know those languages like COBOL and Pascal and the rest,
I,
because
I
the people who were running those machines have all retired or died.
I'm looking at Desert Dancer's comment about how programming in COBOL is in the wheelhouse.
Oh yeah.
Again, that's the thing, is that for those at the top of the skill chart, the current tools and all this, what's happening now is that there's a lot of poaching going on. So the
Oh yeah.
private employers can pay a lot more than the public employers. So
Yeah.
the public employers give the candidates experience, and after a couple years they bop off. I mean, we're not stupid. If somebody's going to double your income or triple your salary, I mean, I'm talking legitimately here.
Oh
uh
yeah.
you'd be stupid to not, who sticks around for 60 a year when you can easily start out at 100, 110, especially with some experience, right?
Right.
Solid education background, 4 years of experience, you're a gold mine in cybersecurity these days. So what's happening is that companies are competing amongst themselves for these hires. So it's almost
Yeah.
like that shell game where you're just moving around from place to place. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, well, it is, and that brings up a critical issue for education, is the fact that most schools traditionally do not and will not pay as much as industry does. So industry is poaching our instructors left and right. It's really hard to get anybody in computer science, let alone cybersecurity, to teach classes anymore because they're too busy working for industry making bucks.
Well, folks like yourself and our other colleagues like Richard Grodeget and I'm trying to think, so many friends, Marcus Geisler. There are so many folks out there that are really doing a bang up job. But let's be honest, we just don't have the capability quite yet to teach this stuff. We don't have the teachers, we don't have the educational infrastructure. And let's face it, a there's about 40% of all cyber jobs are currently unfilled. That alone is a national security and economic security issue.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, that means that all of our situations are under skeleton crews, and that is not a recipe for long-term security. When you beat people up, you burn them out, they leave the field, and we're right back to where we were.
Oh yeah. And it's almost hilarious that the fact is we've been telling these people in industry and in the education these exact same things for, well, you and I since 2013, and people have been telling them that from way before that. And it's always been, well, that's not a real problem yet. And now all of a sudden it is a real problem for them, and they're being forced to confront it, and they don't know what to do. So, building a curriculum pathway like this, as Herculean a task as it's been, is probably the smartest thing that's happened in decades.
Well, I think that you and I were on the phone getting ready for this meeting the other day, and we spoke about this exact issue. That is that I think there's two demographics that are really at work here. The first is the massive number of retirements, the baby boom, and each month, the number of retirees leaving the workforce increases significantly over the previous month. What we had 4.5 million folks just quit their job, just bail and do something else, and who knows what else, but not working for their employer.
Yeah,
And these are serious trends. And let's be honest, if you're on call and you're doing rote work every night and you're working 70-hour weeks and you're bleary eyed and you feel like you're alone at the workplace, no support. Those are the kinds of things that people leave the field over. And what we need to do is make the workplace more enjoyable. And I mean, I don't know if enjoyable is the word I'm looking for, but we need to increase retention of the people that we already have. And we need to set up a flow of folks going into these positions. And the flow begins technically in kindergarten, again, as they move through the education process. That's
right.
that. And that we need to couple all of this with workforce development. I love apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeship, but there are other models. Engineering uses co-ops. Internships are popular in many fields. Incumbent workforce training, right? You already have them working for your company somehow, but you take some tech savvy people out of the warehouse or out of admin and move them over into the security operations side. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I see Beth's comment. Probably need to increase funding for schools. Absolutely, no. Not only that, Beth. Not only increase the funding for them to bump up their salaries a bit, but also the education side. That is that we need to have a plethora of cybersecurity educator certificate and other programs to get folks ready when they get into the classroom so they're more efficient and a better teacher, if you will. And I file all of this into the cyber education infrastructure bucket.
Right. And part of this project that we're doing here has been um, partially funded through grants, and we got some more grants coming through, if I remember right. And you know, we have to find a way to make sure that this gets sustained after the grant money runs out. That's a common problem in all curriculum development, but I think the need for this is so critical right now, and the jobs are out there that most likely the state of California and probably any other states that are doing this are going to find ways to make these kinds of programs sustainable. I am kind of I have kind of a dark feeling about what's happened with the people leaving the workforce, because I happen to know that several industries, when the pandemic rose, and especially a little bit before that, started firing people and telling them they would rehire them afterwards at a lower salary and without benefits. People aren't stupid. You reach into their pockets and take money back out, they aren't coming back for you. So they've
I
all
get it.
gone somewhere else, you know.
Myron, if you don't like, I don't tout my own horn.
Yeah.
Um, I might not be a very humble individual, but I'm definitely a modest one. And we have received $0 from anybody
Oh
on
wow.
all of the work that we've done to date. Has all been sweat equity. University professors and college professors such as ourselves working with our private and our public and our community-based organization partners. I have gotten zero. I have not gotten $1 out of anything. Not even a penny roll of anything. So
Oh.
this is, but that leads to, and I'm saying that now because there is the possibility of money coming up into the future. So I want to say it now before I can't say that anymore. I love to be able to tout that. That is a badge of honor and such for people like you and I, Darkeagle. But back to the sustainability question, it is obviously clear that you cannot run a K to 12 through graduate program in cybersecurity without any resources, without any funding. And I mean, that's not even a matter of unsustainable. That would just never happen.
No. And actually to get some of this curriculum into the K-12, we would probably have to find ways of integrating it within their current curriculum that's already existing, because they literally do not have room in the day for any more um, classes or information to be put in there without having to remove something else. And on top of that, all the government regulations for doing paperwork and reporting needs, I mean, a lot of it can be automated, but just isn't. And
I got the answer for you there. Got the
oh
answer
yeah,
there for you. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is a common problem for K to 12 curriculum. That
yeah,
is, it's really hard to just add new curriculum. Like you said, the day is already full. So a lot of the programs that we're talking about here actually function as an after school or extended program. It could be a fall or winter course. It could be over the summer based activities. So the programs that I'm talking about here all exist outside of the normal school day, which means they're very easy to implement into schools and school districts. And Beth, I'm talking, nobody ain't volunteering nothing for nothing, right? We're not asking nobody to volunteer their time. We are, the only thing that we typically ask is parents to allow their kids to attend the after school or extended programs that we're talking about. So parents aren't troubled, students aren't troubled. This fits in over the summer or the school year. And let's be perfectly frank, we are talking about online programs delivered in a format very much like the one we're talking about here. This could easily be this could easily be a lesson that we are talking to 12th graders, for example, about, or community college students, about how to break into the field. I think this would be a useful conversation, wouldn't you, Darkeagle, for those thinking about getting into this field?
oh yeah, and and I used to teach cybersecurity, security plus at the college level, and one of the things I would do is I have my own virtual world, and I would build cities in there, and have my students go in as teams, and wire and put their servers in there and make it all you know, look the way they think it would. And then when I finished congratulating them on their good work, I would flood the place, and then we'd segue into disaster recovery. So virtual worlds and actually most online environments are perfect for trying to get this type of thing done.
Fantastic comment from Tizzy. Thanks, Tizzy. I think that what you're saying here even further emphasizes what I'm talking about. That is that while we're immediately here today talking about IT and cybersecurity, we could easily badge or credential, depending on whether it's a demonstratable skill or knowledge based, on geography, on biology, on climate change, on sustainability, how to be a good global citizen. I mean, any subject that you mentioned that we've lost out of the curriculum, we can re-add it back into the curriculum. I mean, I can't make a school district do more geography or biology, but what I can do is provide an educational outlet for students that are interested in all of the items that you just mentioned. I personally will commit to the development of a climate change micro badge. And I'm putting that in writing on my notes, so you can hold me to that if you wish. A micro badge in climate change. I promise it right here, right now. Micro badge in climate change. I don't know about the details of the, it's probably like a 40 micro badge plus a master badge. Lots of fun activities, hands-on videos, applications. I mean, this is the fun. I mean, we are in a classroom like this here. The students I'm talking about would be in a classroom. I mean, not exactly like this, obviously. This is pretty sweet here, but I'm happy to do that for you. I hope that addresses any of your concerns. Hey, great. Sounds like a plan. We're good.
Yeah. Let me catch up on the slides here. So the incentive programs are going to be important as well because let's face it, we got to motivate people to get into this. A lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people think somebody else is taking care of this, so they don't have to. But in reality, since we're all hooked up to the same internet, uh, everybody is responsible for cybersecurity, but we still have to incentivize this so that people will actually pursue this and see it as a valid career choice.
Yep. So I got a question, Darkeagle, and for our esteemed participants.
Yeah.
Why is not everybody into IT and cybersecurity? I mean, kids hear about it. It's in all the cool shows and hacker stuff and, big money and, lots of fine car. I mean, why is it that we don't have more people in IT and cybersecurity? I mean, it's obviously a desirable occupation. What is the barrier or the obstacle?
That's a really good question. And part of it is a lot of people have been told over and over again that cybersecurity requires a lot of math and statistics. And certain branches of it do. But the reality is, most hands on career technical education type cybersecurity is very practical, does not have to be, doctorate level of mathematician to take care of it. There's room for that because there's always volunteers I mean, not volunteers, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, there's always people who need to develop ways to fight vulnerabilities. That's the word I was looking for, and discover those. But that's usually beyond the average pale of what cybersecurity entails.
I would like to address something that Desert Dancer and also Neuro LOL. That was a good one. I like that. Um, Actually, the way that it reads right now is that most young girls are turned off in STEM fields by about fourth grade.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's not just IT, not just cyber. My own daughter, actually, to use a personal experience, she went to a engineering at the local university, engineering camp for girls.
Hmm?
The first mistake they made is that it was only geared for Apple users, right? So anybody that wasn't an Apple user basically got to buddy up with somebody that was otherwise using an Apple. The second is everything was so geared towards the boys in class that many of the girls not only were turned off by it, but they never go back into it either, right? I mean, so it's
Right.
a shame to think that one bad event in fourth grade is significant enough to change the career trajectory of a generation of young girls. That's a perfect example. It's fourth grade. It's not, don't even go to middle school. It's early. But there's another angle here to it as well. And Myron, I know you've spoken about this before. I hate to use some of your stuff.
Go ahead.
The guidance counselors and the parents often don't know enough about cybersecurity professions either. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So a young girl will be talking to her mom and dad about going on to a career in cyber or engineering. Just do the math. And they say, well, that's really not for little girls. And I hear there's a really nice nursing program down the street that might be of interest to you. So
That
it's
you
it's
couldn't get into.
well, so what's happening here is that there's whether it's a conscious or unconscious bias. I don't know, and I'm sure that others might have more to say about that. But this turnoff process is very very critical, and I think somebody said that it's not feminine to be smart. It was a comment about TikTok.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of folks that are very attracted to smart people, and one thing about IT and cyber folks, by and large, we tend to be smart people, and we need to encourage this smartness as much as we can.
Right. And um, it's kind of ironic. I worked with a lot of K-12 students and trying to get them into STEM programs when I was working for the state of California. And one thing I found almost consistently across the state was by eighth grade, students had been exceptional in math and STEM type projects, all of a sudden decided that they were no good at it. And they just all went going in another direction. And I tried to find out. I asked several students, and the closest thing to an answer I got was that the boys didn't like it. And that's truly sad.
Well, I mean, we have so much work to do.
Yeah.
If we really wanted to get down to the barriers and limitations, what about the 30% of low socioeconomic citizenry that do not have access to high-speed access at home, right?
Yeah.
So only 70% of the education of kids is important. The other 30%, they can just work out of school where the kids that have access to these programs and this stuff at home is key. So the education programs that we're talking about here are virtualized and intended to be driven by Chrome, Google Chromebooks. I
Yeah.
mean that's the level of that's the we're not going to need to impose some super expensive cybersecurity lab in your school now. I mean, we need to find a way to get kids $200 Chromebooks, and there are many, of course, education delivery programs supplying mobile hotspots, and Chromebooks to students. That's the technical requirement that we're talking about. Obviously, when you're doing some pretty advanced, crazy stuff up there, in the higher grades and in 4-year schools, you're going to need more than that Chromebook. I get it,
But
but
we
that
can
Chromebook's
virtualize
going
all
to do you
that.
well. I know. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we've discussed before and has been a really big project in the California area is net labs, where you can
Hmm.
actually have entire virtual networks and full of servers and all kinds of really esoteric equipment. And it's all in a virtual environment so that it can't be accessed from the outside. Only the people who have access inside can do anything with it. It doesn't impinge on the school's already existing IT infrastructure, and it's gives an incredibly rich experience for the students.
Darkeagle, may I address a comment by Blue Barker?
Of course.
The digital divide is actually more insidious, mind you, than just the socioeconomics, because it has a tremendous geographic factor. Ironically, or interestingly, perhaps the better word, it negatively affects urban inner city citizens, as well as those that live in rural areas. So this is an example that crosses not only socioeconomic divide, but actually gets to the heart of the digital divide. And so it's even worse in that regard.
Yeah, 25% of Americans do not have access to broadband, as defined by the what is it, FCC? Yeah, but
I've seen it defined a better way. Folks
Okay.
from upper and middle class incomes have a 90% connection rate at high speed, and those drawn for an urban and inner city and lower socioeconomic areas, it drops down to less than 70%. So, if you really wanted to know what the digital divide is quantitatively, it's in that number right there. And again, urban, inner city, rural, and country living.
That's
Although
just
some of this stuff is
America.
changing.
Yeah. And that's just America. When you start looking at the um, world as a whole, all of a sudden there's huge black holes in um, digital connectivity. Many parts of Africa, for example, are actually decreasing in their connectivity, which is kind of scary.
Hmm.
Um, there are people who are working to reverse that, and it's been a while since I've actually had to check. I don't know how much progress has been made, but the one of the vice presidents of development for Remington Rand was actually involved in that for a long time. I think her name was Catherine. It's been a while, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of work being done, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. And building templates like what you're doing here with the cybersecurity programs and career pathway may be a great way of showing the rest of the world that they can do this. There are ways to do it, and there are formulas to follow.
Right. Well, this is intended to be replicable. I mean, that's the this is a nothing more than a template and a blueprint for how you and your local school or your state school system or other can follow in terms of developing and implementing cybersecurity education programs at all levels of education. And I'm sure that many of us are aware that a ton of education is no substitute for experience in IT and cyber. I mean, I could read about how to install a firewall day long, but until I actually sit down and struggle with it myself and find out what I did wrong and reinstall it a couple of times, that book doesn't tell you all that. So we need to do a great job of crossing over from the education phase into the, career phase, and I think that the ball gets dropped a lot there.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, there's a big difference between looking at a picture in a textbook of what a router interface looks like and actually sitting down and trying to hands and how to actually configure the network interfaces on it and, uh, turn them on and things like that, which most students fail at miserably the first 6 or 7 attempts, you
Yeah,
know?
there's a comment about something I can't see all of it. That is great if you have to have a template, but if you don't have a teacher to teach it, I certainly hope that we were not communicating the idea that we need to develop cyber and IT infrastructure all across the board. I mean, you are correct that we are not talking about an academic exercise of developing this curriculum that nobody is available to teach it, actually. That there's a tremendous amount of resources going into the development of a new generation of IT and cybersecurity professors, instructors, teachers at all levels of education. Um, I think that our plan basically doubles the amount of cyber professionals trained in the state of California. Obviously, we're going to need to double the infrastructure and capability to deliver those programs. But I don't want to put too fine of a point on the teachers part of it, because we are talking about a degree of automation and a degree of technology. And I think that I used the word centralized teaching resources before. So I'm not talking about having a person teaching one section of computer science at high school. I'm talking about having people that are serving in these hubs of education that have numerous students that they are overseeing and helping out. And I also want to bring in the idea of, we've been talking about education a lot, Darkeagle. I do believe that the government and private industry has sat up and taken notice of this as well.
And they
Whenever
haven't
I
had a
get,
choice.
well, when it, no, no, no. So as an educator coming in to talk to industry or government, I'm an easy target. Because what they always say, and I apologize if I'm getting into some details, what they always tell me is that it's education that's really dropping the ball because we are not teaching the students today of the skills that they need to get the job, which is their view of why there's a capability gap in the first place. So in other words, as educators, we're just not bringing these people up to speed sufficiently. And what's ended up happening is that I push back with these folks in industry or in government. And I say, look, we're trying to find your talent pool. We're trying to find your next hire. So if you're not talking to us about what you need to be conveyed in terms of skills and competencies and other things, then it's not just education's problem for failing to provide what you're looking for, because A, you don't tell us, and there was a previous comment to this effect as well. B, that this stuff changes so dang fast, right? That, I mean, we might have the best curriculum right now in hand, and tomorrow or the next day, it's hopelessly outdated and would be taught in the archaeology of IT and cybersecurity class. So these are factors that we've had. I believe that industry and the government entities understand that they need to participate in a way outside of criticizing what is being taught in education, and they need to be more active participants themselves. And I always finish this off by saying, it is your workforce. I was talking to a major CISO not long ago who was kind of critical about some of this stuff. And I basically said, I checked on your firm before I came to this meeting. You guys have a ton of open jobs in cyber. How are you filling them? And boy, did that fellow become very cooperative and easy to talk to after that point when, this isn't some theoretical debate. Do you have your people or not? And if you don't, what are you doing about it? And complaining, yeah, we got to get past that.
And part of the problem, and I've brought this up before in multiple venues, is that instructors are trained to talk. And so when we invite industry to our advisory committee meetings and things like that, we have a tendency to spend most of the time talking to them, telling them what we want, instead of actually sitting down, shutting up, and listening to them. But at the same point, at the same token, you're right too. They're not telling us anything. They're holding the cards close to their chest because they don't want to own, that decision. I mean, I've managed networks before, and I've tried to get people to tell me what their employees need to use in terms of software so I can lock down the network and make it secure. And it was worse than trying to pull teeth without anesthesia
Yeah.
and maybe a pair of tweezers. I mean, it was nobody wanted to, you know, commit to anything on that, especially not the administrators. And ultimately, most of the time, they did not really know. I had my most success talking to the individual employees, but most of the time, they would say things like, "Well, I don't really use that messenger, but maybe Johnny over there does." They were always hedging their bets. They don't want to take responsibility for this. And, I can understand, though I can't condone it. There was a guy back in the early 2000s who got frustrated with this kind of situation. So he just shut down everything and waited for the complaints to come in so he'd know what had to be opened up. Worked great, except that it was an online investment company and they lost millions of dollars. He was immediately fired, but probably about it. I don't know.
It's a funny story. Other than the
That's,
poor guy getting fired, of course.
I mean, that's how frustrating this whole situation is between education and industry. Yeah, we really need to have this dialogue, this conversation, but getting people to actually feel safe enough to give us the information, exchange it with us, come up with practical solutions. The best we've gotten so far are the certificate programs from people like CompTIA.
Yep. CompTIA is a champ. Big fan. Big fan. I got to tell you, I didn't always appreciate their value early on in this. I've been doing this since 2013. Maybe the value of certificates have also changed in the intervening 10 or 12 years. I mean,
I think
uh,
so.
A lot of variables are coming into play. Uh, so, Dark Eagle, I don't know how much time we have. I know that we probably have some slides left. I
Actually,
don't know
we're
what
on the
time it
last
is.
slide. I
Wow.
kind of I kind of breezed through them while we were talking because we kind of casually brought this to more interesting stuff. So the last slide up here now is our contact information, and I've already invited some people if they want more information about the actual curriculum and stuff to contact you or I, and we'll get it to them.
Well, how about this? If you want to see a copy of the external, if you want to see a copy of the executive summary of a report that I just prepared for the California State Assembly on cybersecurity, workforce development, and education that lays out all the stuff that Dark Eagle and I have been talking about today, you just drop me a quick email, and I'm a pretty friendly fellow, and I will happily send that your way. And you don't even need to be in California for what it's worth. Again, replicable template that involves all levels of education, how to blend it with workforce development, increase diversity, equity, and inclusivity, link all the stuff to the professional and the career education side. I got it all. Let's talk about cyber awareness and hygiene. I am one thorough fellow. Let me tell you, that's about a 78-page report. The executive summary is like 12 single space pages. I don't know if you read it, Myron, or some great
I
insomnia
grazed it.
medicine.
I grazed it. I didn't read it.
I could see you by the pool with a cocktail, reading up on it, right?
I
Soaking your
would.
feet.
Anyway, I want
We
to
got
thank everybody. Go ahead.
we done?
I think we were supposed to end at 2:50.
Oh, hey, how do I save chat? Or maybe you and I can help work on that.
Um, yeah, I forget. Maybe Iceski can help us with that. I've forgotten how to save
So
chat.
I'm not sure how to save chat and such, but I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna drop my mail.fresnostate.edu. If you can send me a request there, it'd probably be the best way. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how I'm going to be able to capture the chat yet, so
Yeah, I'm
I
trying
assume
to
it can be
select
done
it all and
somewhere.
copy it.
Is that how we do it?
I don't know. That's how I'm trying to do it.
Highlight it. Okay, highlight it, copy it, and paste it.
Yeah, that's what
We're
I'm
in the
hoping to
we're
do.
in the metaverse, and I still can't get away from having to copy, paste, and print something. Huh?
I'm sure there are other ways.
Of course, no, of course. Look at all this chat. We got we. I hope you appreciated our conversation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wish I could have typed more, but I really appreciate everybody putting up with us.
Your little fingers must be sore.
Well, actually, I have a speakeasy HUD that actually, every time I click it, it prints a line of text under my name.
Oh, and after all this time of cutting and pasting, there's a bunch of new comments on it. So actually, I have to do it again.
Yeah, of course.
This sucks to be me. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Copy pasted. Does it keep conversations around?
I, I think so. At least while you're logged in.
So go to communicate.
You can go back um, when you log back in. Your conversations are all there.
Oh, good.
In your settings, you can control where they go on your computer, but
Got it.
for a backup,
Thank you.
but they're saved in world.
Oh, good.
Saved in world. Let's see.
In other words, when you log back in and you open nearby chat, you can go back and look at what was in nearby chat earlier.
Oh, fantastic.
Or like an IM with somebody, you can open that up and see what what was talked about in chat. You just can't save
Perfect. It's been a
voice
while since
unless you
I've tried to
record
do
it.
that.
There's conversation log. No, that's with individuals. With my luck, I don't have it set to local chat history. Well, I guess everybody's probably gone by now, anyhow, right?
Pretty much.
Well, Myron, I deeply appreciate this. This was exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you came by and volunteered to do this because this is something that we really need to get going, and it has to